I am pleased to introduce this morning's speaker, Sheriff Glenn Gordon. Sheriff Gordon was born in 1963 here in Livingston County at the hospital here. After graduating from Livingston County High School, he went on to earn his bachelor's and master's degrees and then served 27 years at Computer Services Incorporated, or known as CSI, in Paducah. In May of this year, he was elected sheriff. After Sheriff Davidson took an early retirement, Sheriff Gordon was appointed to serve out the remainder of Davidson's term. That is what he's currently doing. Sheriff Gordon and his wife Laura, of 42 years, are lifetime members of the Livingston County Historical Society. A self-described student of history, he encourages others to experience Livingston County's rich history through visiting historic sites, reading historic accounts, storytelling. So please join me in welcoming Sheriff Gordon.
Thank you all so much. I don't know where to begin to say how much of an honor this is, being asked to come and speak with you all today. To say that I am not nervous would be one of the biggest lies I could ever tell. But it is such a pleasure, and to be asked if I speak something that several things that I am actually quite passionate about. One is this county, and two is the subject of history. And what I hope to do today is just kind of tell you how I combine the two. And it's history is more than just inanimate objects. It's people, and that is my keen interest is the people. The first thing I thought of is one of the things that, you have these little things in life that kind of sets the tone for things going forward. And one was a little comment my dad made, just out of the blue about something. It had really nothing to do about anything at the time, but it really, for some reason, it stuck with me at a young age. And he just told, it's just kind of a sidebar of another story of being in a Veterans Day celebration in the city of Benton. This would have been sometime in the mid-30s. He was a very young boy at the time. And seeing two old men, sitting on a park bench. And he remembers asking his dad about who these old men were. And he pointed out, said, well, they were Civil War veterans. Oh. So I guess that always stuck with me because that got one to thinking about how closely connected you are to past events that you think is ancient history. I mean, I read history of the Civil War and I'm thinking it is something from, we had the dinosaurs in the Civil War. And in reality, I'm just one generation away from actually meeting participants of that conflict. I know I am probably of the last generation who can remember meeting a veteran of World War I. And many of you in here that are my age and older, and you definitely know the family, is Mr. Bid Southern, lived out here by Scotts Chapel. There used to be an article, at least once, probably every year or so, about his experiences in France. In 1918, he had the Spanish flu and was pronounced dead and woke up in the morgue with a toe tag. But I remember him. I remember him as a young man, really as a child, really. And of course, his family still lives around here. So that always had a great bearing on me. And we think of going back to my dad and the connection to the people in the Civil War. Well, that's no different than people today meeting veterans of World War II. The time period's about the same. And we know that meeting people who actually participated in that is getting rarer and rarer now, as it was then. So as we age, we know that time passes quickly. So things that we used to assume, okay, that was 1865 or this was 1920, and like in my case, well, that was 1970 something. Okay, not that long ago, you didn't think. But younger people talk about it as history. We all know it. It's just a generational thing, right? Everybody goes through that. Well, as we remember the past, we think of Livingston County, and look around here. I mean, it's rich in history. I mean, we can even go so far back to say that, well, we have all these big white holes in the ground around here because it was all underwater one time, and however many millennia of life, decade at the bottom creates a limestone now that we're mining out, but also the Native American history that's here with all the artifacts that many of us have shoeboxes full sitting in our closets, evidence of other times. But also as the county itself, when you think of the land ownership that began around here, a lot of the early French exploration here, as well as veterans from the Revolutionary War, where the only way they got paid was land in the Western Territory. So they say, "Oh, we got some free land for you, Mr. Virginian." "Oh yeah, where?" "Well, about 500 miles that way." And come up through the Cumberland Gap. Here we are. And speaking of the Cumberland Gap and Princeton, obviously the role the county played during the westward expansion as wagon trains came through here from the Carolinas in that area. Cumberland Gap up through Princeton, get water, and head north through here across the Ohio River. And those are all things that we talk about, things we look around here and we see, even this building here is, it wasn't that long ago, this was the courtroom of Livingston County. And very frequently we try not to make anybody feel bad, but when people are coming from out of state to have a court appearance here, they'll type in their GPS, Livingston County Courthouse, and it brings them to the front door. And so they're walking around trying to get in and say, "Well, where's court? We're late for court." "Don't worry about it. It happens. Just come over here, get in." But this building obviously has lots of rich history in it. There's those of us in here who participate in court in here, whether there's law enforcement, and not to mention how old Michael is. Did I mention he's older? No. But I had some times in here as well, court experiences. But we all remember that. But also I want to talk about history in a little more narrow sense. And we think, several of us like to get around and talk about things that were. And I think of the places in the county that probably don't get a lot of mention historically, but it was a big part of people's lives. You think of like West End Service Station in Salem, Smithland Elementary School, those of us who were graduates of that school up here on top of the hill. I think the store in Tyleen on by Smith's, where it was a general store. You walk in, and on the right side was the groceries. You tell them what canned goods, things you wanted, and they got it for you. "Oh, by the way, get my mail," and they walk across the hall to the post office right here. Get your mail out of the box and get it to you. Boxes look, where did I see them? Well, never mind. Yeah, kind of like the top of the drawer over there, but all on the wall. Communities that used to exist, you have those who remember Tyleen, Lola, I can just go on across the board, Iuka, communities as they used to be at one point in time, and especially even this town. I hardly recognize Smithland now as what I remember it from the 70s and 80s. Things have changed so much. The Hale Hotel out here. It's just hard to believe that one time there was a building of that size out here with a big restaurant in it. And of course, we were at the offices, things downstairs. But what made these places special is not necessarily the architecture, and most of it's gone, but it was the people. It's the memories you have of the people that were there. When you're talking about the little grocery stores, the Joy grocery store, and Smith's and Tyleen, West End. One common characteristic of these places were tables and benches around. A lot of times a potbelly stove in the middle of it. So you spent your winter times sitting around gossiping and just getting along with people. There wasn't anything else to do but just have a good time with other people. And those are the things that we remember in history. And they're like on a smaller scale, aren't they? But that's what makes history. So the point is that every day, this is where I have come to in this, that we live history. And if we get stuck too much in remembering everything in the past, which we should, I mean, the old saying that if you don't remember the past, you're doomed to repeat it. I'm sure I paraphrased it. I'm sorry. That's a very valid saying. But we also know what it's like to drive down the road looking in the rearview mirror. You know, we have today. And those of us that are here today are working, preserving what's going to be here tomorrow when we're not here. And that's where I want to come in today and address, because that's when I sit back and I think, and let me tell you, when I got this job, when I won the election, and I tell people that I sat there, of course I won the election on a Tuesday night, and Wednesday morning I was told officially I had 8 days to get ready to take this job. And so you can imagine that things were just moving fast. I mean, my head was never settled down. I'll announce your presence on you, so you just don't. Somebody's sneaking in the back door back here. But she'll get me back. Don't worry about it. But
Ornery.
you know, I remember the day that I was going to be sworn in, and I was sitting in an office over here in the Judicial Center. I kind of had to just be by myself, but I was sitting there thinking, this ought to really hit me, because look what's happened. I mean, this is not something that, you know, if you'd asked me 5 years ago or so, I mean, this wasn't anything I set out planning to do. This wasn't an ambition of mine to be this. But I was sitting there and thinking, this needs to hit me. Just something about it needs to come, and it wasn't. Well, maybe something wrong with me because it's quiet. There's nothing pressing right now. I mean, the day is set. It's going to happen, and it didn't until the swearing-in ceremony was over there, and Judge White, who her family and mine, especially my wife's, have been closely connected for many years. And I was just thrilled beyond mention the fact that she was able to be the one to swear me in. And she just got up and made a couple of simple comments. I had no idea she was going to make them. I had no idea that I was going to say anything. I was just a neophyte to all this stuff. And she got up and just said some simple comments about growing up, and remember swimming in my wife's family swimming pool and stuff. And you know, that brick wall just came down on my shoulders. I realized at that point in time, those of you who were there, I hope you couldn't see it, but my knees just about went out from under me. It's just like, wow. And then she had the audacity to turn and ask me to say something. So anyway, I got through it, but the point is that I feel an awesome responsibility in this position. The people have elected me to do perform a service to this county, and I can't express how seriously I take that. And that's just many things involved with that, but one of it is the coming back, and I am circling back around to the topic at hand, is that preserving the history. And also knowing that I, as well as all of you, are part of history today. And we need to live our actions and things to preserve things going forward. You know, like I said, we're going about the places that I talked about, and I'm sure each of you have places that in your memories that you have around this county at point in times in your life. And again, I'd probably say it's not necessarily the buildings it was, the impressions of that, but it was the people that you were with there at the time and the people you remember. Of course, we like to sit around and bemoan how these places don't exist anymore. And they don't, in that sense. But things still do exist. And we have a responsibility to make opportunities for people here today to have those same memories and share the same history. Now, I'll tell you something that not only as a holder of the office, and we have 3 other elected officials here today that I'm sure will share the same sentiment. You do share the responsibility to this county as a servant. And not only to just execute the day-to-day business, which is enough, but to do so in a sense that preserves what's here and shapes what's going to be. And that takes different forms. And that only comes by servitude. And servitude is something that I speak to for everybody. Now, in speaking for myself as a Christian, I looked as an example of Jesus, his servitude here. We don't have really the benefit that he had, if you want to call it that. Actually, it was probably a curse in his human side to know what was going to happen. And yet he fulfilled his servitude, doing that willingly. Well, we don't stand on that one, but we do have a servitude to others. And these things historically wouldn't exist. If we look at the pictures here of the events going on in town, especially in the wartime, and Mr. Leffler, and I remember him. He didn't do that for money. I don't think that he died a wealthy man because he did that. He did because he loved to do it, and he shared it with people. And that's a servitude. I think of Doris McElmurray. Those of you who knew him, I know my wife knew him. Who else knew him? Everybody raise their hand. Yes. Very unassuming person, wasn't it? Until you got talking to him. Then listen to him hear something, then turn around and spell it backwards. I mean, if you were just to see somebody, and most people would go, "Oh, Norris, he had no idea he had that skill." And I remember that story there too, where he was invited on the Carson show to go demonstrate that. And he just didn't want to leave the county to go do that. He didn't. So that was Norris, and he was a wonderful person. He really was. But as we look at servitude, his part of history, I will tell you, and some of you already know this story, but in my office, there hangs a presentation copy of John F. Kennedy's January 1961 inaugural speech. And many of you are familiar with it. And you read that speech, and I reread it this morning. It does contain, lots of grand geopolitical strategies that were very important at the time, staring down Khrushchev and the missile crisis and all the issues that surrounded the nation at the time would be heavy for anybody to deal with. And down to domestic issues that were important at the time. But, what does people remember about that speech?
That's not.
It's the sentence down at the bottom, isn't it? That's not what the country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. 2 sentences, I'm sorry. But that's what everybody remembers. Why? Because that's just such a very telling and influential 2 sentences. And as a public servant, of course, I don't have the weight of decisions and nor the skill sets and all the tools that Mr. Kennedy possessed at the time and had to be a part of. But the feeling's no different when your obligation to the county and asking what you do for the county. This county has changed. It will continue to change. And I think as we look back to the past and we see, like here, I keep looking around this room and referencing it, and I just love what the society has done here. And I would love to see what comes more in the future. But also, we're also serving this county not only in preserving the past, but we are creating a future history. People that are here. And want to stress that to you. And in closing, I'll just say, But again, you know, I mentioned JFK. I'm not holding myself up to him. Now, don't get me wrong, but he is an example that I look to. And like for my case, it is my responsibility as a sheriff not only to preserve the peace and safety of the people, but more importantly, in guarding their constitutional rights and to ensure their opportunity to continue to make history here. That's my way. Thank you all so much.